Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your panel on Live Entertainment Embraces Immersive Technologies, moderated by Senior Managing Director at Sapinda, Arjun Metre.
Well, welcome everyone. I think we can firmly establish this is not the panel on housing finance reform with that sizzle reel here. So we'll just kick it off with a personal question that I wanted to take the opportunity to ask my friends on stage here, because I've been in this business for a very long time, as have all of these fine folks, and I've never established what really motivated them or inspired them to actually get into this business in the first place. So maybe that's a good place to start. Maybe Asya, I'll ask you, I mean, it's a personal question, but why entertainment and live entertainment and all of this?
Well, I think I was getting such a kick out of that video, which you know, why not? It's so powerful. No, for me, live entertainment is, especially in this day and age where everyone is used to on-demand content, whether it's Spotify or Netflix or Hulu, and everything is on your mobile when you want it, how you want it. There's the live component that sports offers and music events offer that is just really captures a live audience in real time. And for me as an individual, and I do love music, I was with Spotify for many, many years, but for me there's nothing more thrilling than being live or watching live, whether in the stadium or on your phone or wherever you can see it. You know, Ronaldo performing a hat trick at a Champions League match against Atletico Madrid. And so, you know, that being able to be in there and immersed and being fully focused into what you're watching and what you're feeling and seeing is really the power of live, and why I think all of us here are in that business.
I respect that. Maybe James, if I could poke on you. You have a point of view on a personal point of view on why this is exciting.
You know, I'm going to really build on the last comments there. It's a fascinating mix of raw human emotion and cutting edge technology. And I think it's a very, very unique combination of these two elements that if you look at the other industries in the world, it's really, really hard to find that combination. And it gets me out of bed, gets our team out of the bed, and couldn't think of a better place to be working.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to weigh in while we're on this before moving on?
I think it has to do more with storytelling. That's sort of the basis of how I came to it, and personalizing storytelling. So I think the first time I ever saw what I would have classified as live immersive entertainment was seeing a virtual walkthrough in a very old VR headset of my childhood home that was about to be torn down. And then a couple weeks later, saw a virtual walkthrough of my physical body through a machine that was going to be used to do a surgery. So that wasn't entertainment, but it was definitely a live immersive experience. And then when you can take storytelling and layer that on top of technology and make it something that it's more personal and all-consuming, and then you have stories to tell and pass on to others, I think that's the most powerful tool that live entertainment allows you to have and access.
Arjun, I think in my case, it was the ability to take a sport and really, with the teammates we have, and really build a new massive global community around the values of golf and how technology, you know, brought that forward, and then how it took something which was a game which sometimes was not available to everyone, and you know, really make it available to everyone in the world. So that live experience, how they could feel about that. But you know, I think we've really been excited to break down some barriers for that sport and then bring it around the world.
We'll talk more about that too, but the idea...
Okay, if I have to.
And Carrie, I think you're about to weigh in as well.
I was just going to say, you know, what motivates me is I feel that we're at the cusp of redefining live. And I think that it's been very antiseptic. And I think now we're ready to really dive into creating experiences that are genuinely relevant to people and have an enormous amount of emotion and intimacy that allows them to connect with others. And I think that's what really excites me, leaving kind of the film industry and moving into this space to let people live it and let people really connect.
I respect that. I mean, these are all very candid answers, and I would have just said I'm just shallow and shameless, and that's how I ended up in this space, but just kidding. Absolutely, I echo the high creativity, the blending of creativity and technology to deliver storytelling in a way that hasn't really been done before. So let's get a little bit more serious. to help calibrate the audience, why don't each of you take a minute or two to talk about the business that you're in the context of live entertainment? Because a lot of you are also in other businesses as well. You're investors, you're entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and so on. Help us talk about what you're doing in the context of live entertainment. Maybe start with you again, Erik, and we'll go down the line here.
Yes, well, Topgolf, we really focus now on building this global sports entertainment community that connects people in meaningful ways. And what people may not know is, of course, we're known for the venue business, but we run full-scale live broadcast, like on almost all of the golf when you see the slabs and the arcs. So we run a full-scale, media company like that. We have the largest golf game, virtual golf game, WGT, another 20+ million people. We're working with Top Tracer technology to turn the practice facilities around the world, driving ranges, into a global game network, so another 30, 40, 50 million people. We have a thing that looks a company like Topgolf Media, which looks sort of like Red Bull Media, where we create original content around music. So I think we're at that scale point. And I did this other conversation, which is people oftentimes say it's a venue, but we really are now this global community with reach approaching already 100 million people. And it's never off. So we're continuous. We're not episodic. And so on all the way. So that it's that scale and continuity that's so fun.
And I think of you guys as on the scale of the big leagues, the NFL, the NBAs, and then some, given the reach and platform that you have. But you've been very quietly building that business. So
no, you and I have talked about it for a lot of years. So, but we're sneaking up on them now. It's hard to hide anymore.
Absolutely. James.
So I always like to start with the problem statement, like what is the problem that we're trying to solve, especially focusing on live sports. And when we think about consumer media behaviors and expectations, we know that they've shifted and are shifting even faster. So that's demand. And on the supply side of the equation, content experiences have largely remained stagnant. We're taking linear telecasts and moving it to a phone, but the type of experiences has largely stayed the same. And to us, that represents an inefficiency in the market. There's a supply-demand gap. And then when we look at the fan that sits there right in the middle of that supply-demand gap, what are the characteristics that this fan is looking for? They're looking for interactivity, personalization, a capability of showing the world why they're a better fan than the person that's sitting right next to them. And in order to feed this fan, we have to really go back to first principles, which is, how do you capture reality in the first place? Like, there's a gentleman right here that's taking photos, and you can see the reality from where that photo's taken. But if you envision digitizing an entire volume, everything that's happening on that court or field or pitch, and put that fan that's sitting right there in that supply-demand gap on the field, on the pitch, being able to see things, see something that's unique, share it with their friends. And this is a capability called volumetric capture, and it's really what we're putting a lot of effort and emphasis on, trying to be the world's lead in large-scale, live volumetric capture. And when you are able to do that, stream real-time, which is a key differentiation, I think, in this ecosystem, I believe that we have an opportunity to hit that supply-demand gap and give the fans the types of experiences that they're looking for. So that's what we're doing at Intel Sports, partnering with NFL, NBA, La Liga, just recently announced Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, and the list will continue.
Fabulous. Carrie.
This is totally awkward because that was exactly verbatim my speech.
Thanks for letting me steal that from you.
It's really uncomfortable. So our company, Immersive Artistry, is a business that is really tailored to this new generation of what we call experience collectors. And I'll just quickly go back in time. Years ago, I did a film called Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I watched during the first opening weekend, as people walked out of that movie, how every single person who had kids would sit there and say, I have to go and find a wardrobe to walk through to get into Narnia. And how do I do that? And how do I live that? And how do I connect with that emotionally? So our company lives in a space in the world of sports. We're very proud to be driving creative in the Hall of Fame Village with the NFL, and we're designing this really cool kind of field of dreams that allows you over several hundred acres to come in through a football stadium and through a whole walkthrough experience that's going to be in Canton, Ohio, that gives you the best of the game as well as other sports. We're building a really exciting project that You take a train from Caesar's Palace, kind of like Westworld, into the best of Southeast Asia. That's a music experience called Kind Heaven with Perry Farrell. And then soon you're going to read about, like we did with Narnia, a series of these Christmas villages that are launching around the world that you'll start to see this fall and next year. And then for those in the world of sports, we're very proud to be launching something called Luxury Box right now, which will truly allow people to immerse yourself in the best seats of any stadium or arena in a restaurant environment, except that you're actually in the arena and the stadium. But what's unique about, I think, what we're doing, it's not just about watching the games that are currently being played, but it's about going to stadiums around the world and arenas around the world and watching their greatest games from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, as if you're there at that time with that crowd around you. It's all about passion. It's all about emotion and intimacy. And that's what we're so proud to bring in this new format.
Lovely. Asya.
It's exciting. I'm sure we'll be doing some projects together. So I am Asya, and I run a consumer-focused VC fund out here in Los Angeles with my business partner, Rachel Springate. It's called Muse Capital. We do broad consumer. We do touch sports, but we really target the consumer across different industries. Probably the reason I'm here today is because I've been on the board of directors of the Juventus Football Club for the last 7 years.
And if I may add, the youngest person to join the board and the first female to join the board.
They always love to mention that on panels.
Because it's true and it's an accomplishment.
It's so
I'm
funny.
glad you're being recognized.
You spend your 16 years of your career even ignoring that there's even a gender there, and now it's no. But I
Fair.
appreciate
No, absolutely.
that. Thank you. No, and for us, clearly, live is a very important aspect of our business. And when I got on the board 7 years ago, the brand had been going through a difficult time in its 120-year history, and we had to regain the trust and loyalty of our fan base and also grow our fan base where we hadn't originally looked at. And the first thing we did was build a brand new stadium in Torino, which was modeled after the UK environment, and so much more intimate, smaller stadium with 42,000 seats. It was really able to get the community together. And then we started looking at our fan base, and we realized that we had to tap into new fans and younger fans and women as well. And so we built a daycare system around the stadium whereby now a husband and wife could come to the game together. Their children were well taken care of. The children were painted in black and white and fully immersed in our brand, and also through our apps. And we'll eventually ask their parents to download the app for $1.99 on their way home. But more importantly, it would allow for husband and wife to finally go to the game together. And that opened up a whole new network. It also allowed us, frankly, 2 years ago to launch Juventus Women, which is something I'm very proud of, which is our Serie A women's team. But the stadium experience has always been very important to us. We launched J Medical, which is a medical facility open to the public, a private medical facility open to the public in partnership with GE Medical, and they give us their state-of-the-art equipment as we service our community. We have J Hotel in a brand new and J Village, which is just on the outskirts of our stadium, which is really just building on that brand experience and the black and white and winning on the field. And I'm sure I've missed, J Museum, which is something I think we should definitely be talking about for your technology. And that's it, really.
Lovely.
I'm sure.
Amazing.
More I've missed.
You build worlds. We build the details within those worlds.
Lauren.
I make movies, television, and virtual reality, and now do a lot of live content and entertainment recently. I don't think there's a week that goes by where someone doesn't call and say, can we take your movie or a television series or a piece of IP and turn it into something else, right? They want to take it, they want to turn it into a game or a theme park or something that is more tangible that you can sort of touch and feel and experience and sort of essentially turn it into a whole new piece of monetizable real estate, per se. We're focused on a lot of different places right now. We're helping a country build a more gamified version of their health and wellness program, which they want to basically turn a health and wellness program within a country into something that's live entertainment.
What country?
I can't say. Sorry, I can't say. Somewhere in the Middle East region. We're doing a live TV series that focuses on the privatization of the international space race right now. We're doing a recreation of Martin Luther King's March on Washington, so kids can actually feel like they're there. Very similar to what you're doing with sports and allowing sort of the user to really get in and actually feel like they're part of the experience. We're doing it, with more historical pieces and volumetric capture as well. So that's where we sit in the landscape.
Great. And Marcus, a pioneer in the live streaming space. Tell us a bit about your experience.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, a friend of mine who was a coder by day, gamer by night, they self-organized tournaments playing Quake. And once he put up a live stream broadcasting the game and saw, okay, 100 people are watching, that got us listening, and 1.5 years later, we had a platform with 50 million unique active users engaging around gaming content and esports. And what got us hooked was being part of the birth of a vertical of gaming as a media vertical. Gaming today and esports, we know is quite bigger than it was when we started out. It was nothing. And our drive was always connecting the people around a live experience. So we're just on the digital side. We are the broadcaster. We create tools for people to interact, to be part of it. And so after this time, with esports being pretty tied to the PC platform, we feel that we want to move on a tech perspective and go to the next medium that we feel is so we're not that far in the future, but just what we have now is mobile, and what could mobile do to a live sports experience by what the mobile offers. It will never offer you immersive experience like lean back in front of a big TV or being in a stadium, but it connects people. It's good at gamifying content, short form. This is what we're focusing on.
And that's taking some of your techniques around social interaction in esports and bringing.
So after 10 years of just focusing, what can tech do, what can interaction do, or full live content in a digital world, we know that it's not. We apply the same model. So what we did on PC doesn't work anywhere for no other vertical, for no other medium.
Right.
But we learned a lot about what gets people spending, what gets people engaged.
Yeah.
I just hearing you speak clearly, I was focusing on our live physical experience, but with our demographic, everything that they experience is online and very much digital. And at Muse Capital, we're very proud of a particular investment that we've made, which is a platform that creates intelligent avatars, and it's called Arty. And exactly as to what you were talking about, it essentially takes IP, whether it's a Ronaldo or Deadpool, and it creates it into an intelligent avatar that is accessible on your phone through a web link and shows up in whatever room and space that you're in. And not only is it intelligent in that it can interact to you and knows about whatever you're interested in, which is the movie or the game or the stadium in that very moment, but it also is intelligent about you and what you want and what you care about, and picks up on your facial recognition and understands what you want. And that kind of engagement, whether you're in the stadium, imagine taking Cristiano Ronaldo and digitizing him and having him be in your living room or wherever you are, but also or have Cristiano explain to you in the stadium as you're watching him play or just before you're about to watch him play, tell you where the chips are. But that is for us engaging, and also another Muse Capital investment that we've made is in the betting space called Betcha.
Okay.
And that is a micro betting, I guess you could say Venmo for betting. So it's casual betting, micro betting, and it allows the consumer to, as they're watching a game live, whether at home or in the stadium, to be able to really bet on small minor bets on whether Aaron Judge is going to pull a home run or if Dybala is going to do a goal in the second half. And that kind of engagement online for what's happening in the live, as a live experience, I think is pretty powerful.
So maybe that's a good segue then into the demographic trends that are driving this, the growth of live entertainment. And I think it's quite clear millennials and Gen Zs are a key driving force. They're all very experiential oriented. I just want to quote a Harris poll survey back in 2014 that the Harris Group did for Eventbrite. 78% of millennials choose to spend money on a desirable experience or event versus buying something desirable. And 72% of millennials want to increase their spending on experiences versus physical things. And this is just a couple backdrops. I mean, clearly we're not even getting into Gen Zs in this discussion. What are your guys' experiences with demos? Maybe James, I'll start with you. And what's your point of view on these demos driving this growth?
My rule of thumb on that one is really millennials are looking for experiences and Gen Zs are looking for truth.
That's deep.
And I'd argue that pretty much all of us are mostly here because this generation exists and are looking for something that's new and different and exciting.
Here, not existentially, but
no,
here
like
in
the fact that we're having this panel talking about
good.
business and immersive media and live entertainment.
Yep.
If every generation was similar to the previous one, everyone would be happy with linear television. Everyone would be happy with what existed 50 years ago. And so one, I think that they're the reason that we're all here talking about this. And two is I think that it's an opportunity in that at least I'm a believer in that there's no such thing as disruption. There's only you stop serving your customer. And once you stop serving your customer, then you give someone else the opportunity to serve that customer. And as the world shifts, sometimes it's hard to keep up with that shift, in momentum in your business and whatnot. So
absolutely,
it opens up new opportunities for companies like all of ours to, seize the moment that's there and better serve the customer.
Absolutely. I think, Erik, I saw you leaning in on that.
I just wanted to see you, Arjun.
Bag over my head.
I think we're in the wrong seat right now.
That's that engaged person you told me to lean in there.
I love it. I love it.
Well, I think for us, we've sort of started thinking about these Gen Z and all these people, but everyone as having an identity inside our community. So it's not a transaction. It's not even something that we offer. They come in and become an identity. And I think that identity now exists and lasts and is enduring from when they first experience Topgolf and they're a child, experiencing a wonderful moment with a parent, and then they go through music and maybe with their friends. We have these philanthropy platforms we're building. They become philanthropists. So I think about that almost like in Fortnite, right? You become somebody or something. And at Topgolf, we really now are focusing on this identity and the social currency and the meaning that they come to together. And we're really excited about that. We see it at large scale, but we're really trying to make sure that our technology allows it to be at a very personal scale. And even on our philanthropy platform, for example, I liken it to, in my own mind, for almost like everyone can have a little lemonade store. They can have a little philanthropy store where they can take one bay and one child can do good for one important idea to them and their community. So it's that community becoming and having an identity and allowing that identity to change in all the forms I just described.
So maybe to double click on that a little bit more, what's the experience like, or what's the around the philanthropy, for instance? If I go to Topgolf and how do I connect those dots with contributing, for instance, to?
Yeah, I think there's three forms. So the first form would be what we might think about is we can really make it easy to have an event. So sort of a one-floor buyout. We underwrite it and people can come and they just know what to expect. It's weather. Right. It doesn't matter about weather, kind of that. I think another idea now is this world of something we may be partnering with a company called Giving, where we can create, and they, with their help, a 501c3 in 72 hours. So if you've ever tried, so that knocks barriers down, right? So if you're there and something happened and you care about it, you could do that, but you can say, I can now create this, which allows you to react in real time, to important ideas for anyone. And then I imagine at the very micro level, like my little lemonade stand idea, just the ability that to make it seamless where you can, I want to do this, I'm doing it for my school band. If you come here and you play, you're able to use that platform. And our goal is that, in a way, is if we underwrite something or anyone underwrites it, that they'll get like 5 to 8x return on that investment in terms of output net to a charity. So those are the kinds of platforms. And then you think of yourself as back to identity. I'm a philanthropist.
That's fabulous. And then I'm presuming you're also getting a large number of Gen Zs and millennials
Yeah.
participate in this.
Well, and they love that purpose, and they love that community, and they love creating identity.
Yeah.
Just like we heard, you know, if you're going to paint black and white, and you have this Juventus identity, right? I am Juventus, right? Kind of thing. So now I am Topgolf.
That sounds nice hearing you say that.
It did. I tried to throw that out there for them.
There you go. Maybe I'll see anyone else commentary on the Gen Z millennial trend? Or Marcus?
Yeah, I have to admit, I don't know anything about any other demographic than those younger.
Well, there you go.
Doing gaming, so I'm just we're about those. I would, if I combine them, I would, in a respect to what's the attraction of live to these generations, then I would combine it as a social media generation that is used on a mobile to have a really intimate and immediate connection and idea to be part of something. And I think that drives this quest for being part in even in live events that translate to physical live events. So the fear of I will miss something, going to be there, and yeah.
I want to make a quick point
Please,
out.
yeah.
There seems to be always a need to define each of those generations or detach them from one another or capture this one, Gen Z or just this demographic. I think it's, to me personally, more important to try to reattach them all together. What kind of experience can you give people now where, to your point, parents can come with their kids, or your grandparent wants to share an experience with their great-grandchild, and what thing are they going to be able to take each other to where it's just as exciting for one generation as it is for another, and the live event space is really great at doing that. And in making movies, it's always, it's impossible to track how your movie's going to do by demographic. They try really hard to do it. They usually miss most of the time. But if you can find something where there's a story that allows, we're putting out a movie in a couple weeks where people who know that artist and lived during his era are going to go see it because that was memories for them. Kids who like music and want to see a musical movie are going to go and see it with their parent. And it's going to pull in all those different generations together as opposed to detaching them. We spend too much time trying to take the Velcro apart as opposed to try to put it together.
I think to your point, exactly, I couldn't have said it better. I think it's about making sure that we don't get distracted by making our fans care. And in order to have them care about what you're giving, you have to create content for them that they actually need and want to see. My biggest concern with maximizing the attention deficit disorder of the Gen Zs in our media and entertainment world is that we're constantly creating for them these incredible experiences, which we invest in proudly, of course, and sports owners build stadiums full of activities that are off the pitch and not looking at the pitch, but sort of with the food court and every other way to sort of engage them. And I think the biggest risk here is to be able to bring the Gen Zs back to caring about why they're there in the first place, and that only happens on the pitch if you're winning, or if the content they're watching is really good and they can't get it any other way. Because otherwise, there's so much out there, so much content out there, so much sports, so many games and teams that you can be following, whether it's an esports team or Juventus. You have to, at the end of the day, invest, and I always advise this to my friends in the industry, invest in winning, and invest in winning on the field and making sure you actually have a brand that is worth following, regardless of the experience.
Let me just quickly give the psychological and sociological answer to that question, at the risk of being shamelessly quoted out of this, which is, I think that the millennial generation today, and you have to build your experiences accepting this. There's Arthur Schlesinger Jr. once said, people are ignorant that they're ignorant, and I think the millennials fit that. So like when they go through things and then they see something they didn't quite understand, they have that huge aha moment. And in immersive experiences, you have to be ready to grab that and then go extremely deep and really capture that. And when that curiosity hits, I think I call it the XYZ generation, has zero kind of loyalty right now to brand and religion and country and artists, and it's a whole population that's now coming out with tremendous curiosity. So they're kind of like the opposite. So I agree with the bridging concept, but it's important to recognize and really tailor the experiences to those people and what they're hoping to get out of it.
And maybe, go ahead, please.
So then for like a brand like Juventus, just having the right experiences for each of them, but making sure it all goes back to the hub of kind of like a hub and spoke in there, and then we're going to continue that theme of black and white, right? It's that stands there in the middle. Kind of how I should understand that. No. Okay.
No, he just told me to turn this into like a Jerry Springer kind of thing. I'm supposed to agree with everybody.
But okay, maybe on to segue from there for just a second. I think you guys were picking up on this. Is there a difference in how some of these demos behave across the geographies you guys are operating in, or is it pretty consistent how millennials and Zs operate in the various geographies? So Europe, US, Middle East, is the behaviors largely the same, or the values largely the same, or are there discernible differences? I'll throw that out to any of you guys.
I guess I could start by saying that there's several differences, at least in terms of a football club, for example. We're based in Europe, and comparing it to the US teams, the users are different. And again, back to winning. In Italy, if you're not winning on the pitch, no one's going to really follow you. And you'll have followers, but not at the extent that you can build big franchises here in the States. If you look at the Cubs, they didn't win for 108 years before they had their World Series, and yet they're still one of the biggest, most formidable teams. And that doesn't exist in Italy or in Europe at that level. There's no right or wrong. I think the marriage of those two approaches is absolutely important. We have to look at the US and how they capture their entertainment and their audience, and I think the US has to look at the European way of really not forgetting to really investing in the players and what happens there, and that's also the medical side of that too. We're opening an office in Asia at the moment, which is a very large fan base there, highly engaged. The U.S. is definitely a market that we're working towards, but more in terms of partnerships and teaching and training the American geographic to care about European football at all. So we're doing interesting engagements with the Brooklyn Nets, for example. Recently at the Barclays Stadium, we showcased the Inter-Juventus match with them, and their players were wearing our jerseys, and some of our players and fans were wearing their jerseys, and it was sort of so we definitely are, the two worlds are speaking to each other, but the consumers are slightly different in their nuances.
That's a great insight. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Well, we're starting that process because we're building all over the world.
Yeah. How many locations now?
We have about 54, 55 up, and
wow.
We're under construction in Dubai, Mexico. We're up in Australia, so we're going to read everything. And the early beginnings of understanding, the demographic differences. We're starting to work in China, and so menus. Our perception, for example, in China is that be much larger group, sometimes group activities. So we just see, how they organize themselves, right? How upscale it has to be, for example. In that case, in England, we learned that they love queues over there. They just love stand in line, stand in line. It's something we do here.
We don't do that in Italy. We cut.
No, you cut lines. Yeah, a red light is suggestion. I get all of that. Right? So, but all those little behaviors and how they experience that and how that shows up, either in social media feedback or all those sort of things. So I think that's going to be a great challenge for us, and I'm sure it will exist. And then, of course, music involvement in our business is becoming very important. We've created this show now, Who Will Rock You, and all those sorts of things. So we think we're going to find big common themes in things like music, certain kinds of food, comedy, and like embedded into what we do.
That makes, and just on the music side, you're using the Topgolf venue as it turns
So we
into
have
a rock
so turns out
concert
music
venue?
might not get over my skis with the person who was strategic planning for Spotify for a long time. But so we had Snoop Dogg in Oklahoma,
Nice.
right, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
But we turned it into, looks like, 100 suites of being there. We could use your like immersive technologies, you can be there. But he loved that, and he said he wanted to do 51, Snoop Dogg tour, 50 sites. So that's exciting. Our audience is very engaged, so our Who Will Rock You was actually a battle of the bands kind of thing. Our demographic skewed much younger. For us, went 17 to 22, and the people who watched that, maybe 20 million or some number, 65% had never been to Topgolf. So that was this idea of building this community and this identity. Of course, now we know they like rock and roll music, thanks to Queen or whoever came out here lately. So we can create experiences that brings them into that, and they can vote. And so all of those elements are embedded in this, in this community that we keep talking about. So
That's amazing. I'm surprised Snoop didn't want to do 420 shows, but pardon the very bad joke there. Yeah. Let's flip to talking a bit more about technology and monetization trends. A lot of this innovation and disruption is driven by technology specifically. We're talking about how it's enabling entirely new experiences, formats, AI, 5G, blockchain, all these core flavors. Maybe Marcus, you have a strong point of view. You're a technology enabler here. How do you?
Yes.
How can you share a few words given your experiences?
So we were always tech-driven. What can we do from a tech perspective to create a format, to create engagement, and like what was the starting point for esports? It was PC, and it was that the PCs were available, and that the internet was capable of live streaming. The bandwidth was there. So we know and we feel and we live that technology advancements are the key enabler for new experiences, for new verticals coming up, and especially on the monetization side, creating a form, being able to create a format around a live event creates so much more opportunities for transmissions. So we, for example, when we compare a live streamer doing gaming to a YouTuber, so YouTube is not live; they just create the videos and upload it. What their revenue split would be as a creator. For the live streamers, the majority is coming directly from the audience to the creator while they're live.
Like donations and things like that?
It's donations and subscriptions. The quest to, because you have this feeling in the live moment, it will go away, so it's now or never. You want to stick out of the audience, so you touched on that before. You want to stick out of the audience to get recognition in the fan base, in the people you were there with. And this creates a monetization, I think, that will apply to bigger brands that are now just trying to sell the license for the next 5 years and not care. The big titles, of course, they will always have suitors. They will not care that soon. But I think it gives a great opportunity for smaller leagues and smaller parties that still see they need to grow, and give them opportunity to grow, to take care of the distribution themselves and see that there's a revenue model other than sponsorship or selling to a network that might be not interested because it's already full with the top titles.
And not to start a bar fight on the stage, but what's your point of view on paywalls and things like that?
Yeah, so our experience is you kill your opportunities with that. Especially coming from gaming, look at the top games; they're free to play.
Yeah.
You need to create a really big opening for the funnel to have a proper conversion at the end. And especially for sports, I mean, I think over the years, you've seen how a sport is the popularity of a sport being on public TV. Everybody can turn in and watch, compared to it's locked away in Sky Sports or something. Again, if you're the big title and you just care about your paycheck every few years, this is what you do. I think that will change within the next few circles. But you limit your options by that.
Fair enough. James, I know you have a very strong point of view of technology transitions and the impact of technology in the business, getting the transition right. Anything you can share from your experience or Intel's broader experience in this?
Yeah. So I guess I'll get the second part first and then
Sure.
the first part. So I think he said what is Intel's experience, and I think Intel famously missed the mobile transition, right? So Intel was and is very, very big on the PC side. The mobile side came, and the methodology that the company was using to measure, the platform was based on a previous generation, causing a lot of, not the right decisions and outcomes to come through that transition. In terms of a general philosophy, what you're saying there is, I think it's really, really hard for a large company with solid revenue streams to hit generation N and then N+1. Generally, what I believe I see happening is you hit tech trend N, you miss N+1, and then if you've got the balance sheet, you can weather the storm to hit N+2, coming in really, really hungry. At least from a framework, that's generally how I approach it. And I think going to the monetization and the paywall, I think it's fascinating to see what's happening with the rights landscape as a whole. You've got Disney verticalizing, you've got AT&T verticalizing, you've got lots of different companies that are trying to create fiefdoms around content. I mean, the acquisition of AT&T, Turner, all the live sports, all the live entertainment that's there, Warner Media, right? All the long form content that's there, and it's going to come into a vertical, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it kind of evolves from a fan perspective, having to figure out where to go for all of it.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to lay into that?
On technology?
Sure, yeah.
Well, technology made Topgolf. We say sort of unbundled, hitting the golf ball from walking. It's a 20-minute game and a 4-hour walk.
Right.
It's true.
Absolutely.
Unless you don't play like me, in which case it's a 30-minute game because I hit a lot of shots. But nonetheless, and I would really, on to your part, the hardest thing I think that we maybe had the privilege to do because we were still private and still pretty nimble was, and you and I talked about this, Arjun, like capturing the screens of golf and getting on the screen so everybody consumes golf with our technology. But that wasn't at all obvious. Right. And then getting the digital game and trying to keep working through those things. So we really became screen-based. We thought screens were inevitable, live was inevitable, community is inevitable, and that's so we try to focus on these inevitable things in a way, and then how technology enables them, and like betting now and all these things. And so that'll be our next. How do you capture that? And you've really now we're a little bigger now, snuck up on people, and now it seems harder. You want to take less risk, and you right because oh no, something could happen, and you have to move more people around to that, to a point of view. So I really can empathize with this N+1, N+2, but all those little technology things that we really came together to make Topgolf even possible.
Yeah. I love how you guys have used, for instance, ProTracer in the broadcast environment, and now you're taking it to a pod, which is great. I mean, I can get a live television, a broadcast quality television experience in a pod with my friends and a couple beers.
Yes.
Basically, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then, again, we can activate this community and bring it to the Juventus Stadium, right? Because we'll hit golf balls in the stadium and all of those sorts of things, which we do all around the world. Our Topgolf Crush, where people like to see, there's something about hitting a golf ball, apparently, anywhere that's very exciting. So we're going to continue to, bring that opportunity to people.
That's great. And so now we're talking about live. We keep talking about live venues and digital experience. Asya, you live in both worlds, and everyone else feel free to weigh in. But how do you differentiate the live venue? Tell us how you think about both live venue and the digital experience.
I think I touched on it a little bit before, which is just making sure that they work hand in hand. I see a lot of teams investing a lot of capital in building their physical experience that is actually taking the attention from outside of the game instead of inside the game. And so I think balancing that out is really important. I feel, and in terms of technology, you know, we're very, I think e-ticketing is going to be a very powerful evolution for a lot of teams. A lot of them already have it. We don't. We're working on it and getting smarter about that. Betting is going to be, casual betting is going to be is an important technology that we're looking at, certainly as Muse Capital is.
Yeah.
I can't speak on behalf of Juventus for that one. And companies like Artie that are engaging with users and starting to understand their users in a deeper way, so you can sell to them and engage with them better.
Yeah, technology is a great way for any sort of brand or live entertainment experience to really capitalize on who their users are. Yeah. So, you know, two ways that we're taking technology and sort of spinning it into a different direction. One is in taking television series and making them more choose your own adventure. So we're working with the creator of Call of Duty on doing a TV show that you can actually watch, you know, a million different iterations of, depending on which way you want to go. And the series, which allows brands to come in and sort of rebrand the experience for each person who's watching it. So then you're learning about your consumer, and your consumer's learning about you, and it keeps it keeps iterating on itself. And then sort of in the live event space, we're putting together right now a very large toy fair, and it has a, you know, RFID system within it where kids and parents go in there, and now they know exactly what you're wearing, and then they're serving you up, you know, $1 a toy that looks exactly like you, like American Girl doll would do. And you know, it's good for everything in terms of the brands getting to know their consumer. It's also good for, you know, security and safety. Mom goes that way, kid goes that way. You kind of can follow and track where everybody's going to be, and it gives you data metrics behind all the events that you're doing, which everybody seems to be using to whatever advantage they want to use it for.
Is that through an app?
I would add two things to the technology piece. One is, you know, we develop all of our experiences so that you're totally unaware of any technology. Because if you are aware the technology is being used, it's like you don't want the here comes the hologram moment, here comes the robot, here comes the XYZ. It has to be integrated. Yeah. We've spent the last literally almost 5 years now developing a proprietary tech stack that we call ICT, which deals with a lot of the RF technologies and technologies people are talking about, except we've gone very deep on tracking emotion, behavior, and having real-time back and forth with the customers they're going through. So someone who might come in minute 1, by minute 90, we're able to literally continue to tailor the experience to them in a very unique way, because we've been tracking what they've been doing and how they've been experiencing it. And we actually have created something called the FAA Flight Tower, which is, in all of our experiences, we have about 4 or 5 people that do nothing but monitor that and kind of work back and forth with our guests.
So what you guys are all talking about, I think I'm hearing the common theme here, is a deep personalized experience, or starting to curate an experience for the audience specific to that moment in time. And it sounds like, even in your instance, Carrie, you're tuning it to how they may even be feeling at a particular moment in time?
Correct.
So let me double click on that then for a second.
We want to get rid of psychologists.
Funny, we recently were working with a company called Moody, and it's a tracking. It's not quite for live sports, but it's in the health and wellness space, and you track and log every day. It's for women. It's for tracking hormones and tracking how you're feeling and how your mood is being affected in all different verticals of your life. And over time, that just creates data that is really creating tailor-made experiences for you and telling you what you should be eating, or what vitamins you should be taking, or if you should, you know, why that is happening. And that kind of a tailored experience is something that can work very well for a health and wellness retailer, or it's something that you can really use to your advantage to offer something different to your fan base and in whatever environment that would require that. And so, yeah, it's really all about tailoring the technology to the user and making them feel like you care.
So it's interesting to weigh the variables of, you know, personalization and community, in that, like, with the volumetric capture I was talking about, now I can go on the field and watch Ronaldo score his hat trick, right? So, but if I'm doing that only by myself, I lose out on the community aspect that comes around the match and everything that we're talking about, pulling everything together. So it's really interesting to think of like how deep we need to go on personalization, because if you go too deep, then you break the community feel of it. But you can create these micro communities around certain types of experiences. Like I've got a friend who loves defense, right? So what is the storyline around a defense in a match? Why can I not watch the game told from that perspective? Mm-hmm. Why am I not able to see something and share it with the defensive community that's around me? But it emboldens micro communities, and I think we as an industry have to watch out between personalization and community, and I think you can go too far.
Good point.
I think we also have to watch out about a little too much Big Brother nature of this. I mean, you should be able to, if you want, opt out. Some people just don't want to be tracked when they're watching things or staring at their computer, and that same pop-up comes in. I mean, this goes to the sort of security side of it all. But
so you're bringing up privacy in many respects, and I think I mean, Carrie, in your experience, you're tracking how I feel, my experience, and so on. How I'm engaging with it. I might be hangry. I might not have had my breakfast and what have you. How are you dealing with all this super deep, personal, private information?
Well, it's different in each country, right? We've done a lot of experimentation in places like Vietnam and Indonesia and other places where you have one level of interaction, and there they actually want to go as deep as possible. We're seeing a lot of stuff. And I think it's an opt-in. I think people are given the choice and are told very clearly, that they can have something that's going to be an AI component as you're going through an experience that doesn't have to feel like a Big Brother, and you don't even have to say what your name is or any personal information.
Right.
If you come through the experience and you want to say my name is Joe and my social security is 11111, it doesn't matter. The point is for the moment in time that you're there with us, we're responsive to you.
Right.
And we're improving and creating an experience that's highly, highly personalized. And I think for us, we look at that to grow community and basically move people into other areas. Because for us, it's about socialization, not individualization.
I agree. Artie doesn't capture, the avatar, AI avatar, doesn't actually capture if you're a man or a woman or what race you are, or even it gives you an idea of where you are globally, but it does capture what you like, how you feel, if your brows went up, went down, right. if you smiled, if you didn't, and what that means and what you purchased or how much you opted in. And so that personalization allows it so that you can just make it about opting in instead of having to be pushed all the time to be involved. The privacy is definitely feeling like you have your privacy is yours to keep. I think that's definitely the most important thing right now.
Absolutely. I've been advised we have about 5 minutes left, and there's always so much stuff to talk through. Do you guys want to take it to Q&A, or do you want to? You guys want to take some? Yeah, we've got a few hands in the audience here, so I think are we going to pass mics around? Yep, we got it. So let's use the last 5 minutes for Q&A. So there's one gentleman right here in the front.
Yes. How do you transform an emerging gaming addiction into something sociologically beneficial, for example, by having your winnings given to a charity? Now, I have a grandson in a boarding school who was suspended from school because he was gaming all the time, but it was a bad thing. How do you, among this whole range, how do you and these are the people, he's only 14 years old, and he's been formally diagnosed with gaming addiction. And he has to leave the school to go up in Utah or somewhere in the mountains. So how do you convert this addiction that you have caused into a sociologically beneficial result by, for example, contributing your winnings to charity?
So I think contributing and winning to charity is something that we all should do, and I think a lot of people here have done a lot in charity. I would say that, again, it's about balance, and everything in life is about moderation. And I keep going back to this physical experience, but the power of sports, first of all, is to be able to enjoy the sport for what it is, live. And it's our responsibility as parents, as people in this industry, to be able to bring that back, to bring people back live to the stadium. When people talk about baseball being dead, it's far from dead. It's a national pastime. It's an anecdote to what's happening in the world today when everything is all fast-paced and being pushed into digital. And I think the MLB, for example, has an opportunity there to capture the families and fans and bring them back to the stadium and give them a reason to want to be live and engaging and doing sports and playing sports. So it's not the creators of that technology that are at fault. It's the world we live in, and it's our responsibility to create experiences offline and online that will really impact a younger demographic and get them to have a balanced life, really.
But I think your grandson needs to have curiosity, and your grandson needs to find those new passions. And it's not necessarily technology. My last studio, Walden Books, Walden Films, Walden Media, that's all we were about. How do we take this jaded, cynical generation that had become antiseptic and move them back into finding their passions? And somehow we have to do that through this technology, which is to reopen those doors and get people excited again to want to go pursue more things.
Absolutely. Great, thank you for your question. I think we have one question right here in the fourth row.
Hi, so you talk about the importance of interactivity and immersiveness in the experience. I'm curious what you think about augmented reality technology as opposed to virtual, how you think it's going to change the industry, and if you guys plan on incorporating it.
I think some of you guys already are, but one of you guys want to
Already
take
is
that?
an artificial reality, but I've mentioned it about 4 times already, so I don't want to.
So what we feel, what we did always was augmenting the experience. So you watch a live stream and be able to communicate with the rest watching. This is an augmentation of the live event, and so it's there. That's a good thing compared to virtual reality. There's way lower friction to go there. You do it on mobile. It's native to mobile to augment an experience. To have intermediate connection with someone else around that is to me augmentation already, and not just having faces put on my head while I video chat.
I think it's almost like TV and the phone, right? They're almost two independent mediums where the type of experience that is great on augmented reality, I think, is different and needs to be thought of differently than the type of experience that will resonate with virtual reality. In a virtual reality, we did 21 games of March Madness for VR. And the types of experiences that you want to put together when someone is completely immersed and really cut off from the world is, I think, very, very different than the type of experiences that you want to create with that augmented reality. So I think that it allows someone to get deeper, but it has to be curated appropriately.
And I think that's perhaps a great way to put a cork in this panel. Please put your hands together and thank my fellow panelists. For such a great
Thank you so much.
guys.